You are watching an ORACLOUD Plus Training as a Service video snippet. Snippets are concise, targeted tutorials explaining how to use, configure, integrate, deploy, and support Oracle's Fusion Cloud applications. Snippets are delivered via FAST, the Fusion Application Support Tool. FAST is accessible via the web at www.oracloud.plus. No more watching hours of Learning Path style videos to get to the 5-minute snippet you need. Learn Oracle's Fusion Cloud applications in minutes, not hours. Hello and welcome to the Supplier Qualifications Overview video presentation. This video is intended for beginners looking to learn more about FPC or Fusion Procurement Cloud Supplier Initiative, also known as Qualifications and Assessments, capabilities. It explains the what, where, when, why, who, and how for Fusion's qualifications application. This video snippet, as with all ORACLOUD Plus videos, can also be found in FAST, our Fusion application support tool. Once in FAST, go to the Procurement Cloud Training Group and the Supplier Qualifications Training Center, and this is under the Learn menu option. To request access to FAST, go ahead and email us at access@oracloud.plus. Put the name and contact information, or your name and contact information, in the body of the email and set the title to FAST Access Request. Okay, so key topics are as follows. What is an initiative? Initiative types. When are initiatives created? So within the overarching FPC flow, business process flow. And we'll talk a little bit different, is this idea of models to qualifications to questions to profile. So it's really meant to articulate the structure of what's occurring because it'll help explain what, how, why, when, why. And we'll talk about how initiatives are created, who creates them and how. And then lastly, why are initiatives created at all? So let's get started. First, what is an initiative? Well, an initiative is a self-service polling tool within Fusion Cloud applications. That tool can be used to determine if a supplier or group of suppliers is qualified, or to assess one supplier's qualifications relative to another, meaning to score them. However, unlike external polling tools, the answers to all the questions on the initiatives are stored against that supplier's profile and can be used to update specific values in their profile, meaning I can store the question, are you planning for a pandemic? But I can actually ask you for a certification of minority vendor status and store that certification against your profile in the actual fields, right? So there's a very nice tool in terms of updating the profile as well. And we'll talk about that. Okay, so different types of initiatives. We've already talked a little bit and probably have a clue that there's two main types, qualifications and assessments. So let's talk about each. Qualifications, you establish areas, you create questions, you launch those questions in initiatives to get the questions and answers in self-service, and then somebody evaluates them when they come back. If your initiative is for an assessment, well, then you may have more assessment models, goods, services, public works, and they just type the different questions, groups of questions, qualifications that you're going to ask, so you can determine a relative score. As you did with qualifications, or you would with qualifications, you'll launch the initiative, solicit answers to the questions. You'll evaluate those answers and determine a score. So then, when are initiatives created? This is a little bit different than every other application, maybe except supplier registration, because it's not really initiated as part of any of these transactions, right? So within procurement, this is the FPC single slide flow. You see purchasing services on the top, sourcing services on the bottom, right? And so you have requesters, they request, order, receive a doc or deck, but if they don't find an item, now they're going to go create a non-catalog request. So in theory, I might bring in new suppliers, so I might need to see if they're qualified. But there could be other annual sourcing events or attempt to do something new or engage a new type of supplier. We want to get an XYZ marketplace. We need to know if these folks are qualified or what their ethical hacking, or do they store our data or what have you. And you can use qualifications to do that. Or even in the COVID world or post-COVID world, are you planning for pandemics? So those are typically done pre-solicitation, but this is still, where else could they be done, right? Unless you have something recurring. I think one of the only other really good, smart uses I've seen that has nothing to do with this is if you do a partial conversion because you have a lot of data in your legacy application, but you want to round out that data set. Qualifications is a really good way to do that. Okay, so models to qualifications to questions to profiles. Really what we're saying is who and the tools to get data on your profile, meaning your supplier record profile. And so that's what's on the hard right. And so you do that based on, if you're in assessment, you'll do models, do a bunch of qualification areas and questions. They'll roll into fields or just generally get stored as a question on the supplier profile. And so this is a little bit visually of what that looks like. The models are something that you have in assessments you don't have in quals. Remember, assessment's a little bit more than a yes, no. It's give us all these things and let's get your score. So it's a different animal. How are initiatives created? Well, they're created manually, monitored manually, evaluated manually responded to via the portal. But it's not too bad because really all we have to do is create it, add the questions, select a bunch of suppliers, push launch, and then they do the work of putting the data in the application. We just take a look or have the option to take a look and approve it before it gets added to, again, the supplier's profile. What you see here in the upper left is monitoring an existing initiative. And on the bottom is a spreadsheet where we mapped out what the questions for pandemic planning would be. This was actually part of a Poll Everywhere survey that we moved into Fusion. So it's a real live example. Who creates initiatives? Well, it's kind of who you'd think. It's largely buyers, or what you'll call sourcing specialists. But it could be folks in IT or in collaboration with those folks, or risk or legal, etc. Maybe he can have a say or input. And then largely you have bidders and suppliers as the third parties who get invited to respond, and they do so through the portal. Okay, so lastly, why are initiatives created? Well, first you want to solicit supplier information. You might want to perform some surveys. We've talked a good deal about that. Number 3, we've also talked about, you want to complete supplier profiles from a legacy conversion, and you want to add some additional data values. You can use qualifications to do that. You might want to solicit bid qualifications. So this is really big in DOT, Department of Transportation here in the United States. And so they actually have a whole quality-based selection, QBS. And so you can use these to store those qualifications. One of the other really nice things you can do is you can have the qualifications created in Fusion to act as a qualification database. A, what the qualification is, and B, who are all the people that are qualified. You can see all the suppliers that are qualified, and you can see all the qualifications for a supplier rather easily. And then obviously the last here is you can perform relative rankings amongst your supply base. Okay, so are you ready for the next video? Well, do you understand what initiatives and qualifications are, when they're created, who creates them, how they're created, and why? If the answer is no, then either watch again or feel free to reach out to me directly. You can see here on the left, that's my email address, and I'm always available to answer questions. If the answer is yes, great, then maybe you want to watch more video. So you can go to our playlist out on YouTube by going to YouTube and searching on ORACLOUD Plus Inc. Or you can go from our website to the tool we call FAST, the Fusion Application Support Tool, and you can access the full catalog of our Learn, Use, Configure, Integrate, Deploy, and Support videos online. So that's it for this tutorial. We hope you found it informative, and keep watching.